People love to say that not even a knife blade can pass between the stones of Saksaywaman. The older line is better. In the 16th century, Pedro Cieza de Leon wrote that not even a reel could fit between them. A coin, not a legend. And on the hill above Cusco, where those dark joints still hold their silence, that smaller claim somehow feels more unnerving. The walls are real. The fit is real. What grows around them is the familiar human habit of mistaking discipline for magic. Saksaywaman rises on the northern heights above Cusco, the imperial capital of Tawantinsuyu, about 230 meters above the city. Major building belongs to the age of Pachacuti and the rulers who followed him, not to some lost civilization outside the record. UNESCO places it within the larger historic body of Cusco, a city the Spaniards conquered but did not erase. They kept the layout and built churches and palaces over Inca foundations. If the old idea is right that Cusco was planned in the shape of a puma, Saksaywaman was its head. Not just a fortress then, but a statement in stone about power, ceremony, and order. The work seems to have stretched across reigns. Cieza says 20,000 men were ordered to the task, rotated so no one stayed away from home indefinitely. 4,000 quarried stone, 6,000 hauled blocks with great cables of leather and kabuya. The rest opened ground, laid foundations, cut timber, and built temporary huts near the works, each lineage apart. Cieza says the walls of those lodgings could still be seen in his time. The famous zigzag front was only part of the complex. There were terraces, patios, plazas, temples, water systems with cisterns and aqueducts, and behind them, according to Spanish eyewitnesses, a great circular tower rising 4 or 5 stories. Today, the tower is gone. The foundations remain like a sentence cut off mid-thought. This is where the modern mystery usually barges in and lowers the standard. Unknown energy, lost machines, stones softened like wax. The evidence points somewhere more interesting. At the quarry of Rumikolka, Jean-Pierre Protzen found a preserved area he called the Lama Pit, named for 2 Lama petroglyphs on the rock face. Around 4 extraction zones lay roughly 250 cut stones, apparently finished and waiting to be shipped. He also found dozens of hammerstones foreign to the quarry itself, brought in because they were harder than the andesite being worked. In experiments, he shaped joints by pounding, setting one stone against another, and reading the compressed dust where the surfaces touched. On one test fit, he got a convincing joint in 90 minutes, not because the work was easy, but because repetition, labor, and a ruthless eye for error can look supernatural from a distance. Some uncertainty does remain, and it matters. Dressing stone is one problem. Moving the largest blocks up steep ground and placing them at scale is another. Even Protzen, after showing how close fits could be made, said transport and handling were the harder unanswered questions. Then came conquest. In 1536, Saksaywaman became the site of a brutal battle in the Inca resistance to Spain. Afterward, Spanish Cusco treated the complex as a quarry. All but the heaviest stones were carted off into colonial buildings below. Cieza, already watching the damage in the 1550s, argued that such a magnificent work should have been guarded and preserved. He lost that argument by several centuries. What survived still complicates the easy story. These walls endured conquest, dismantling, weather, and earthquakes, well enough that modern engineers now model how they might fail under severe shaking. That is the right kind of respect. Not worship, not fantasy, measurement. And Saksaywaman belongs to a wider Inca pattern. At Ollantaytambo, at Rumikolka, across Cusco itself, the same habits appear. Fitted stone, organized labor, terrain used instead of denied. The strange thing is not that the Inca used impossible technology. It is that a state with no iron cranes and no appetite for shortcuts could produce work so exact that later centuries preferred aliens to administration. The seam in the wall is the least mysterious part. The real marvel is the system that made precision ordinary. If you liked what you watched, please like and subscribe. We post interesting and crazy stories from throughout history every Wednesday and Saturday. Yesterday's craziness? Because yesterday was crazy too.